Hello YouTube, I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney. On this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. We have a question from YouTube user BZ, who says, "Hello Vincent, thank you so much for your online video and answering questions." Happy to do it. That helps a lot of people with these confusing law terms like me. Laughing face. I hope it helps. Always makes me really happy to think I'm helping people. Question 1. I am working at an international company in Canada, which is a federally regulated business. I assume regulated by the federal government in Canada. The international business has an American regional HQ, and the business is located in North Carolina in the USA. Can I file an employment complaint to the EEOC with ADA covered? Oh, can I file a complaint with the EEOC to do with ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act issues? Thanks a lot, BZ. There's a second question, which I will get to in a moment. Okay, so this is an issue that comes up often, and it's generally, I'm going to answer in a generality with the note that you should absolutely speak with counsel about your individual situation. Generally, if you're working for a company based in the U.S. and you're outside the U.S., you will not have access to the U.S. laws, U.S. employment laws, to govern your employment unless your employment crosses over into the U.S. Now, this is not a guarantee. This is not a sure thing, right? There's a lot. Talk to your local counsel about this. Be sure, right? Now, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a flight attendant. This is an example of, how this would not be true, what I just said to you. You're a flight attendant, you have some kind of weird international, I'm trying to not use names here, airline that you work for, and they make you wear a highly stylized and sexualized outfit that isn't the safest for you and is like kind of demeaning. And you've dealt with like gender discrimination issues and sexual harassment issues over the years, and then one day you have a flight cross into New York City. Well, that airline may have just made themselves subject, with regards to you, to the New York City human rights law. Maybe, right? So while I gave you the answer as to the federal EEOC, if your employment crosses over to the U.S., there are things that can happen, right? Certainly, it is possible for your employer to have you do some amount of work in the U.S. and then you become subject to the U.S. federal and potentially state and local laws, right? That is a possibility. Now, if you're only working in Canada, right? I'll just pick like a multinational. Like if you're working for HSBC, right? If you're working for HSBC in Hong Kong, you're probably going to be subject to the employment laws of Hong Kong and potentially mainland China, depending on how that system works out, right? If you are working for HSBC in Japan, you will then likely be subject to the employment laws of Japan. If you're working for HSBC in Canada, you will likely be working for HSBC in, you'll be subject to the laws, the employment laws of Canada, right? Working for HSBC in Canada does not make you necessarily liable to HSBC's home HQ, which I believe might be in Hong Kong. So, it's not really generally about the HQ so much as it is where you work. But where you work really matters, and if you're crossing over, you could then become subject to the employment laws of the jurisdiction you cross over into. And that's going to be a different test to find out if that's true on a jurisdiction by jurisdiction basis. One of the loosest tests, one of the broadest nets would be New York City, that I'm aware of at least. New York City human rights law has a very broad net, one of the broadest I've ever seen. And if you're doing even a wee bit of work here in New York City, you might be then subject to the protections of the New York City human rights law. That's an interesting thing. It creates interesting situations. and it's a bit of a cottage industry for New York City, because a lot of people send employees here, and it's entirely possible they'll be here for long enough they might become subject to the protections of New York City human rights law, and then litigation happens. You know, it's a complex issue. All right, let's get to part 2 of your question. If I'm not allowed to file EEOC complaints, what keywords to help me in searching a solo lawyer or a good law firm? Or do you have a few recommendations? Thanks again, BZ. So I actually have playlists on the channel on how to find good attorneys to represent you and how to evaluate attorneys to make sure that the attorney you found is a decent person to hire to represent you. And I would highly recommend you watch those playlists. Those playlists are going to have tens upon tens of videos, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually a lot of videos on that topic. There's a lot that went into those playlists over time, and it's something that I'm still curating and still building on. Just anytime I can think of something that'd be useful to someone and how to figure out what employment attorney to hire or how to obtain employment representation, I try to make those videos and just jam them into those playlists so that I can hand somebody like a complete package of like, here, this is a huge question that you've asked. Here are 30 videos or whatever it is that might help you on this specific topic, because I can't recreate the wheel every time somebody says, hey, I need help finding an employment attorney. I can't, make like a 40-minute video every time. I gotta say, here's the playlist, right? I hope those videos helpful. If you end up with specific questions, let us know. I will make specific videos answering those specific questions, and then I will add them to the playlist, and everyone will benefit by me answering your additional questions that weren't answered by the playlist. So, BZ, I wish you a great deal of luck. I believe I am still technically a Canadian citizen. I believe I am a dually, as they call it, which was once perhaps illegal, but is now, I believe, legal. But who's keeping track, really? Not me. Definitely a U.S. citizen as well, just to be clear. So anyways, if this was helpful, like, subscribe, comment down below. I wish great things for you. I hope that you have the protections of the U.S. laws. I don't know what the protections of the Canadian laws are, although I think people are always really surprised. People really go hard on how weak the protections are of the U.S. laws until they try to bring certain claims in, like, let's say Europe, certain European nations, and then they'll be like, wait, none of these things are protected here? Why not? Europe has all the best laws. All the best laws. Everybody knows they're the best laws. And it's like, well, it's kind of a case-by-case basis. Like, certain countries protect certain things, other countries don't. It's, it's dicey. So I get that you're trying to take advantage of the U.S. laws. I assume for some reason the U.S. laws are advantageous for you in a way that the Canadian laws are not. So yeah, good luck to you. I think I already said it, but like, subscribe, comment down below. It helps me to help more people just like you. Take care.